Hi, I'm Hillary with Wise Hearts Connect, and we are going through each of the different meridians which connect with each of the organ systems in Chinese medicine terminology. And today we're looking at the large intestine. The large intestine meridian is very much about energetically letting go. It is responsible for the stomach, that we eat something, it goes through the stomach digests, processes it, and then anything that it doesn't need, it sends down to the large intestine to be taken out with the trash. One other important aspect of the large intestine, ultimately one of its primary jobs actually, is the reabsorption of water back into the system. So although most of its responsibility is taking out the trash, it also has this responsibility of helping us to reabsorb the vital fluids that move through the body to be used elsewhere. And also along that line, it has a significant impact on so much of our health. So a clogged up large intestine is going to have a mental fogginess component. It's potentially going to also be sort of if we have too much quote unquote negative large intestine or colon energy, a person could let go of negative words, like cursing is potentially kind of a large intestine, letting go of this cantankerous energy. But along the line of the immune system, there's a beautiful point on that elbow called crooked pond. It's right at the crook of so if you take your elbow and you pull up here, there's an acupuncture point here called crooked pond, which again has to do with the water reabsorption. But that's a really powerful point to stimulate for the immune system, actually. It's also one that helps to clear heat. If a person maybe is constipated, it is a very powerful point. Now, one of my funny stories about the large intestine and taking out the trash is when I was in college, undergrad school, I had a couple of housemates, and one of the housemates I remember complaining about a lot because he didn't do anything. I would do the dishes, I would maybe do the vacuuming, and he sort of had this little brother energy. Actually, I adored him, but I complained that he wouldn't do anything. And so to prove me wrong, he stopped taking out the trash. And it was only a day or 3 of the trash being overflowing that I realized he had an essential job. And if all he did was take out the trash, I was so grateful, because having a stinky kitchen and a stinky house, well, it's no fun. And that job is an essential one, taking out the trash. And so, yeah, I got my comeuppance when he proved me wrong that he actually did some things around the house. And it also was a very good illustration of what it becomes like, right? When the trash isn't taken out, it gets stinky and vile, potentially, and cursed, if you will. And so the large intestine has a very extraordinarily important role in Chinese medicine and in our bodies, of course. Anytime a person has been constipated, in fact, I was working with a woman who was very constipated, and I remember myself being pregnant and having a hard time going. It was just like I was so backed up, and I remember just praying to God that I could please go to the bathroom. Please help me get this out. So when it's working properly, it's really easy to ignore. But if there's a kink in the line, or if there's a problem in the large intestine, it is very obvious very quickly. And it is very obvious how important the role of the large intestine is. So another thing you can do is, of course, massaging your acupuncture point. But another really simple one, and one actually that I use with patients all the time, is using castor oil on the abdomen. Of course, it's essentially how you use it. You could go and find tons of information on it, but the way that a naturopath showed me to do it when my son was constipated was just to put a glob of castor oil on the hand, and then to rub it all over the abdomen, get up into the liver, all over the intestines, the small intestine, even over the ovaries, all over the abdomen. And then she suggested just going into a hot bath, which could be potentially very luxurious and a healthy time to just connect with yourself. But the hot water from the bath helps the castor oil to be absorbed into the body. And oftentimes the next morning, there'll be a really easy, comfortable, and healthy bowel movement. And this is one very gentle, safe trick for getting the large intestine to be nourished and nurtured, and to support it in doing its job. Have you been constipated? Can you attest to the truth of this? The other side of this is having too loose of stool. So when the large intestine isn't reabsorbing the water, we have diarrhea, and that's equally as unfun. So there's a delicate balance between the proper amount of water that we reuptake and the proper amount of water that is supported in having that peristalsis through the large intestine, that It's a muscle that moves down. It helps to move that down. Do you have anything blocking you? Or do you let go of too much?